Hey everybody, want to do a quick video here to go over trap preparation, when to do it, why we do it, how to do it, those sorts of things. I've done a video like this a few years ago. Still see a lot of questions out there on different media sources about how to do it, why, and all that sort of stuff. So there's obviously a lot of different ways to do it. There's a lot of videos out there. Just going to show you how I do it and why I do it the way that I do. So first off, it depends if you're starting out with a brand new trap. So this is a new trap. It's greasy. Depends if you're starting out with that, or if you've got a seasoned trap that's been in the ground, it's made a few catches. This is one of last year's traps. What we would do with this, or a trap such as this, and it doesn't matter if it's foothold or body grip, what you end up doing does, but this is rusted to the point where I would want to de-rust it. This was out chasing woodchucks all summer long in the garden, so it's collecting a little bit more rust. But anyway, so if we're starting out with a brand new trap, I like to preferably have most of the modifications done to the trap. I like to make sure it's, the pans are level and it's somewhat the right pan tension and all of that sort of thing. I like to have the chain setup I'm going to use. I like to have my name tag on there and everything. So pretty much ready to go. So what you do with these is you start out with degreasing the trap, okay? And you do not have to do all of these steps in order. You do not do all these steps at all. It's very much a personal preference in how you want to take care of your equipment and what you're using your equipment for. So if I was using this for fox, I want to be careful of scent. I want to, maybe take a little bit different avenue than I would if I was just using it for water trapping. Water trapping for me, I can spray paint them all day long, doesn't bother me. They're going under the water. I don't care. I know a lot of people spray paint their canine traps. I just like doing it the old fashioned. I like using, walnuts or logwood dye or something like that when I'm boiling my traps. So again, it's a personal preference. And then others don't even dye their traps. So personally, water traps, foot traps, I'd like to dye them. But you got to start out by degreasing if that's what you're intending to do. If you're intending to dye them, intending to get wax, start with degreasing. You're not going to get a good blacking on the first season traps. You're just not. They won't have quite the rust on them that you need, and they're just not seasoned. A trap like this, I'm going to throw this right in the dye pot when I start dyeing. Okay, so this just has a light coat of rust on it. This is perfect in my condition, or in my opinion, to be ready to take on a good coat of dye. And let's talk about dye for a second. So the reason that we dye our traps is really to prevent more rust, to stop the rust in its tracks, and also to preserve our equipment, right, as much as we possibly can. So I like to look at it like the bluing on a rifle, right, or on a shotgun barrel, something like that. It doesn't need to be blue, you don't need to color it, but you do in order to protect the metal, right, and then you put an oiling on it. The oiling, in my opinion, is very similar to what we do with our wax, right? So we go from a dye to a wax if we're using the traditional methods. If you're gonna go with a dip or a paint or something like that, then you can essentially complete both the dye and the waxing in one step, essentially, right? So that's really the key difference is a dip, it's basically an all-in-one, or a dye and a wax, two-step process. So depends on your personal preference. So again, that one's ready for either dip or dye and wax. Then I got a trap like this that's rusty. It's not quite as smooth as what I would like it to be, and I would like to get it back more into a preserved, good state. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to de-rust it, right? So very similar to this brand new trap where I'm going to degrease it. I'm going to degrease it. Now it's ready for essentially the same step as this is, because I'm going to take this trap And now I'm going to, this is where the confusing part is, I am going to de-rust this trap and keep a fine layer of surface rust, but I'm going to take this brand new trap and I'm going to put rust on it, if that makes sense, using the same process. So let me show you how we do that. Okay, real quick before I get to the de-rusting, as far as degreasing goes, use whatever you want for a degreaser, whether it's like Purple Power, Grease Lightning, Dawn dish soap, whatever. Just degrease it. It doesn't need to be perfect, just degrease it. All right, now as far as rusting goes, obviously many ways to do that. You can throw them out in the lawn, let them get a surface coat. It'll take a while. If you wanna force the process, I like to use vinegar. Just a simple white vinegar that you can get at a grocery store is fine. With just that strength that you get at a grocery store, I don't generally dilute it. I'll pour 5-10 gallons of that into a bucket with all my traps in it to where everything is submerged. Some people like to mix, just depends on how long you're going to let it sit. I've let them sit for 4 or 5 days up to a week in just straight low percentage vinegar. A vinegar such as this is a 30% vinegar, which is a stronger content base. I like to mix that. 6 of one, half dozen the other, but I'll mix that 50-50 roughly, or whatever feels right. There is no calculation that I use, but I'll throw the traps in there. I'll show you in a second. And I let the rust come off the traps in that solution. So with this trap here, I want to de-rust it. I'm going to use a vinegar mix, and I'm going to soak my traps in it for a couple days up to a week. Brand new trap that I just degreased, I'm going to put in that same solution. I'm going to let it soak up. You don't need to let it soak for long. Basically, it just needs to be coated with the vinegar, and then you can hang it, throw it out in the grass, whatever, and it'll start getting that rust on it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, what we got here is a tub. We got about 20 traps in there. You can see this sludge building on the top. This was the 30% vinegar, and then filled the rest of the way with water. I like to start seeing this. When I start seeing this is when I pull my traps out. Some people may like to pull sooner than that. Some people might like to let it go longer. I don't, that's up to them. But this is what I do. So I wait till it gets this sludge, and then I'll pull them out and take them on to the next step, which I'll show you. Okay, so after we pulled them out of the vinegar bath, these are all seasoned traps. This is generally what they look like. These are the only ones that I had to de-rust. So this is what they're doing now. I got them all cleaned off. I got the gunk off them. And now what'll happen is they'll sit here for a day or two. And then likely on Sunday, today's Friday, likely on Sunday, I'll give them their dye. Boiling. So at this stage, if this is really where you make the determination on what you want to do, whether you want to color your traps via a dye or a dip, or if you were just getting the shine off them like these are going to end up being. But anyway, so if they were new traps at this point, what I would do is I would spray them real quick, mist them with some vinegar, just so they would take on a little extra coat, or speed up the rusting, if you will. These ones are going to rust up just fine. They'll just have a thin coat. But as you can see, all the rust is gone off them now, nice and clean. But they'll be rusty in a little bit. Oh, and the nozzle that I was using is just a turbo nozzle. So that's what I use it seems to do a whole lot better of a job than your 10 or 20 degree nozzle. Turbo nozzle is what I recommend. On to the next step. All right, next step of the process is we get this heated up, try to get it to a boil. As you can see, most of these traps in here already have black on them. I'm not after the color whatsoever. I want to stop the rust. Most of these are beaver traps. Color doesn't matter to me that much. I don't want them shiny. That's about it. But you can either get it boiling now and add your walnuts or your logwood dye or whatever after it's boiling, or like I'm doing, I'm gonna add my walnuts now, let them soak in there a little bit. I'll get it boiling. I like them. I like the walnuts when they're green. I'm a little bit late this season, but I do like them to be green. I think they got a little bit more acid in them, which that helps against the rust. So anyways, got these in there. We'll get it boiling, and then yeah, we'll pull them out. They'll be nice and black. All right, so we let it boil, which brings all the wax and all the crud to the top. And now you can do it one or two things. You can either skim everything off, like I do, because you don't want to pull your clean trap through all the wax and walnuts and all that sort of stuff, if you can avoid it. The other thing you can do is you can just overflow the tub here, or the pot, whatever you want to call it. Now, if you didn't go this traditional route and dyed everything, and you went the speed dip route, you know, you'd be done right now, right? So there is no steps really left after that. However, with this process, the next thing we got to do is we got to pull them out. I'll rinse them off, and then we'll wax them. So that's essentially where we are now. From here forward, I like to use clean gloves. I try not to contaminate the traps from this point forward. So that's where we're at. We'll pull them out. All right, here's my setup here. I just got an old turkey fryer, and this is wax from last year. And when I'm done every year, I just rewrap it with some cellophane, and then cut it open. But I reuse my wax every year, and I just keep adding to it. Unless it gets contaminated somehow, I don't really worry about it. But we'll get this melting. All right, as you can see, we got a few waxed here. I got a couple more in the pot. 750s, I can do about 2 at a time, as long as I space them out and put one in, then the other one kind of goes in and follows beside it. So kind of what I'm doing, but I like to have some ready to go. So when I pull these out, hang them here, I'll drop the other ones in. And when you pull it out, you don't want to see any white wax at all. You want it to be nice and clear. Basically, just your trap looks wet, basically. So those ones are going to drip for a second, and then these ones will go in. And then when I hang them on the rack, you know, I'm hanging them from top to bottom, so all the dripping's done. It's not getting on traps. But when you put your traps in here, the one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that it's in there for several minutes. You don't want your wax hot to where it's bubbling or anything like that. And definitely, if you get it too hot, it'll catch fire. So you got to really be careful with it. There's another way you can do it a little safer, which is you can take another pot. You basically do a 2-pot system. You take another pot, fill that with water, and then put this pot of wax down inside that, and then that'll heat this up, but it won't get to the temperature where it'll actually burn or catch on fire. So it's safer, but it's more of a pain. So just gotta be careful. As you can see, you know, this is on that walnut, they get nice and dark. Now that trap there has probably seen a season or two. This is one of the ones that at the beginning of the video that I had cleaned. So it doesn't, you know, it's not going to get super black, which I don't care. I just want to take the shine off, basically, for a water trap anyways. I just don't want anything shiny under the water that would get birds of prey or anything like that coming in. So I just want to take the shine off. That's what I'm doing. This is my setup. And anyways, I appreciate you watching. The one thing that I want to tell folks is I didn't make this video to you know, say this is how you have to do it. There's obviously many ways to do it, whether you're using a dye and a wax, what sort of dye you use, logwood, walnut, whatever, sumac berries, whatever. But the other way, you know, with your dips and stuff like that. But it's important, I think, for trappers to share how they do things, and then as you start evolving your trapping, you start taking bits and pieces of what other folks are doing, and you just kind of adapt it to what makes sense for you, what you have, you know, at your disposal, so on and so forth. So again, that's the purpose of it, just share. Hope you liked the video. Hopefully it was informative and you at least got one thing out of it. If not, that's fine too. But anyways, thank you all very much. We appreciate your time, and I'll see you down the line.